2014. On May 26, on May 26, FCT Minister Nyesom Wike ordered enforcement actions against 4,794 properties with unpaid ground rent spanning to 10 to 43 years. However, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu intervened, granting a 14-day grace period that ended on Monday for property owners to settle all outstanding. So this is a very interesting conversation, and is also a very, very sensitive one. A few weeks ago, we saw what FIRS and what happened between FIRS and FCTA at the point when FCTA wanted to seal up FIRS office in Abuja. And we saw that the president had to intervene timely in order not for the matter not to degenerate. So yesterday we got the news, it was all over the papers, that 34 embassies might be sealed up for not paying their ground rent spanning over 11 years. So this is a very sensitive matter because the embassies and the high commissions are sensitive areas that we must not tamper with. According to the Vienna Convention, which is a diplomatic law guiding individual countries, the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961 is an international treaty that defines a framework for diplomatic relations between independent countries. So as much as Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, has a job to do, and that job description is very clear, to make sure that FCTA, that is the capital territory, is working. He must also consider that there are certain issues that must be treated with care. Embassies and high commissions are sensitive areas. According to the Vienna Convention, Article 22, Paragraph 1 of the Vienna Convention states that the premises of missions shall be inviolable. The same Article 22, Paragraph 3 sets out that the premises of the mission, their furnishings and property thereon, and the means of transportations of the missions shall be immune from search, requisition, attachment, or execution. So these embassies or high commissions are very sensitive areas that we must understand that there are laws. There are clear extant laws guiding how we can interact with them. So if these embassies are, I saw a report that says that some of the embassies are owing as little as 500 naira. Some of the embassies are owing as little as 1,000 naira. And that gave me a major concern. For an embassy or an embassy as a German embassy, for example, the news was saying that they are owing 1,000 naira. So I want to believe that there's an administrative error somewhere, because the calculation for paying ground rent is very clear. So landowners or property owners are supposed to be paying 0.5 to 2% of the market value of their properties. So when you say a German embassy, for example, is owing 1,000 naira, then it's very, very confusing. I think there's a lot of discrepancy with the amount owed, or there's an error from the administrative guys from FCTA, because the German embassy and even the Turkish embassy has come out to say that they are not owing. That if they are owing, they have their receipts to show that they are not owing. So I think FCTA needs to do well in order for this matter not to become a national embarrassment. They need to do well to make sure that these people are actually owing. An embassy like Indonesia are owing about 1.7 million. That's clear because that's obviously an embassy that has a standing to reconcile. But for embassies like Iraq owing 500 naira, I think that's a major error. There's a major error in that area, and I think that the FCTA needs to go back to the drawing board to make sure that these issues are nipped in the bud, such that we don't violate diplomatic laws. Because if we go ahead to confiscate their properties, knowing that they are sensitive areas, knowing that there's a Vienna Convention law guiding us, we might be starting a problem that we might not see the end anytime soon. So I think that the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, needs to tread carefully. Even though we know that the man is doing a lot of work in Abuja. I was in Abuja in the past, about 3 weeks ago, and we saw the level of development and improvement all around the places. But we must also understand that there are some areas that are areas of national concern. And we must not, because in Abuja, we have a total number of about 58 embassies and high commissions. So if we are coming up with a list saying that 34 of them is owing, we must be sure that we have all the facts and records to prove that. So we don't have an issue of defaming, because these foreign countries don't joke with issue of paying their statutory payment. They don't joke with it, and they will not take it lightly with us if we defame them or we allege them of what they did not do. And not even forgetting that Nigeria is a country too. We have embassies in all these countries, so we must be careful not to set a bad precedent. We must be very, very careful not to set a bad precedent. So I'd like us to go on this quick break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Thank you.
In June, over 70 nations will gather for a landmark real estate event. It's the 75th FIABCR World Real Estate Congress Nigeria 2024. Special guest of honor is Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Host, Executive Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Olusola. Keynote speakers, Professor Yemi Asiwaju and Kevin Brown, President-elect, National Association of Realtors. Date, 10th and 11th of June, 2021. Venue, the Coca-Cola Street, Victoria Island. Time, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily. For more details, email info@fiabcrworldrealestatecongress.com.ng or call 0816 772 3543 or 0705 557 3238. Nigeria welcomes. Lagos is ready. Are you?
All right, so before we continue our conversation, so let us also remind ourselves that the 75th FIABC World Congress is currently ongoing. We started since on Monday, and they've been lining up programs and lectures, to make the program very colorful. I recall that yesterday I was at a hotel, which is the venue of the Congress, and we've seen that we've had a lot of international delegates from all parts of the world attending this Congress. As a matter of fact, the former Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibajo, was the guest speaker for yesterday, and I think that his presentation was quite remarkable. And to be very honest, that was actually my first time to be in a room with the former Vice President, and this man delivered a lecture without any lecture notes, and it was very, 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 very beautiful to see. So to continue our conversation, so off air, my colleague here, Chairman, was asking me why is it not possible for somebody to owe 500 naira.
Yeah, because I did see the story.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, we had the 500 naira, there was 1,000 something naira. How much is this ground rent?
So let me tell you, so the ground rent is calculated as 0.5, is usually between, depending on the property and the location. Mm-hmm. So it's usually 0.5 to 2% of the market value of your property. So if somebody's property is worth 5 million naira, so the ground rent will be 0.5 minimum. 0.5 of that is 25,000 naira.
Okay.
So recall that these properties in question are in Abuja.
Yes.
So the cheapest of those property in Abuja cannot be less than 200 to 300 million.
Is it impossible for them to give them at a hugely discounted rate because they are not, they're international bodies?
No, there's no discount. So paying a ground rent is a statutory law. According to Section 10B of our Land Use Act of 1978, it states that every property owner must pay what is called ground rent.
Right.
For federal lands.
Okay.
For federal lands, it must pay ground rent. And the percentage of it is usually 0.5 to 2% of your market value of your property. So when you see somebody owing 500 naira, it is either there is a mistake, a calculation error from the guys in the accounting department in FCTA.
Or they've not finished paying.
But these embassies, about 4 of them, the Russian embassy, the Turkish embassy, have said, we are not owing. We have a receipt to show. So another question, another matter that will now come up is if they are actually not owing, that means the error is from FCTA and they need to go back and, make up for that, because either by sending these companies or these embassies a public letter of apology, because some of them see it as an embarrassment.
Truly.
They see it as an embarrassment, if you know what I mean. So there must be a clear line of showing that, we have accepted our error, is an error from our IT team, but we're sorry, and it has to be done publicly. If a certain, even Ghana embassy was saying that for them this is an embarrassment for them, and they're saying that they have their receipts to show. So why I'm saying that is a lot of times our database arrangement in this country can be very, very faulty.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you see NEPA coming to your house to disconnect your light, even when you're not owing. It now takes you to start bringing out your receipts. Look at my receipt now. They'll tell you, the money has not reflected. So these things. So in other climes, once you pay your bills, instantly it clears off from your dashboard that you've cleared your bills and you're not owing. I saw a comment by the spokesman to Nyesom Wike, Leora Olayinka, saying that sometimes it is difficult to trace this payment because some people pay through remitter and some people pay online, and I find that very, very laughable.
Absolutely.
I find that very, very laughable.
But when the first story came out, the president gave them 7 days.
7 days,
to sort it out.
14 days.
I would think that 7 days would have allowed for them to sort out these discrepancies.
Yes. So after that first story that broke out 2 weeks ago,
yes,
the president intervened and gave a 14 days grace to everybody to go and reconcile. FIRS was one of the major people on the news.
PDP was part of them.
They've gone to reconcile. PDP Office 2 was part of them. They've gone to reconcile. Now they are up to date. So, but some people have not still reconciled because of the availability of funds or whatever. But what we must understand is that paying of ground rent is a statutory law. What the government gives you as a landowner in Nigeria, the government do not give you, certificate of ownership. That's why what they give you is certificate of occupancy for a period of 99 years, according to Section 1 of our Land Use Act. What it grants anybody, the Section 1 of the Land Use Act vests all land in the hands of the governor of the state. In the case of Abuja now, Nyesom Wike is more like the governor of Abuja is the FCT minister, because we don't have a governor there. So he gives all the land management and distribution process to the governor of each state. So what they now give you as a landowner is a certificate of occupancy and a leasehold interest for 99 years.
So you mean if I buy a landed property now in Lagos,
yes,
I only have it for 99 years officially?
Officially, yes.
And it's only certificate of occupancy.
That's what they give
ownership.
To you. Not ownership.
Not
ownership. So after 99 years, the ownership of that property now goes back to the government. So what people now need to do is to go and renew or regularize. So 99 years from now is just about 47 years. So we have some few more years to go. So at that time, people will now have to renew their occupancy or regularize. That's what will happen.
What if I don't, my father bought the land, I don't even know when he bought the land. How do I know that it's 99 years?
So the Land Use Act came into play in 1978.
Okay.
So 1978. So before then, what we had then was communal land ownership system where omoniles and everything, families and all that. So, but after then, government took over fully to say, you know what, enough of. I mean, thanks to the President Olusegun Obasanjo, who enacted that law. Before then, it was a complete mess. It was a complete mess. People owned properties from families to families from generations. So the land was not properly distributed. So a particular family were owning to certain properties for years. So the thing was not evenly distributed. That's why the government said, you know what, let's put up a law. Let every land go back to the government. Let the governor of every state be in charge of every land. So that's why when you buy a property now, if the property does not have a CFO or a governor's consent yet, you now need to go and process a CFO. From that time that you process that CFO, the 99 years will start counting. You understand what I mean? It will start counting. If you now sell your property to somebody else, let me welcome my co-host,
Yes,
King Gray.
Good morning.
You made it through the traffic.
I did, right?
Proud of
Oh
you.
my goodness.
So I know that I knew you were going to be held up in the traffic because as soon as the rain started, I had to tell my driver to just hurry up and get to the studio here. So we've been Choma has been my guest.
Yes, I was listening to her. I was listening to her on my way here. The conference is ongoing. I'm coming from the conference right now.
How's it going?
Oh my goodness, amazing. We're talking about different attendees from around the world, different specialists from different industries, government officials, architects, lawyers, young, old. It's such a broad demographic. It's such a wide demographic that it's a whole new, different experience, honestly.
And yesterday,
and the topics,
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu couldn't make it, but he sent in
the Minister of Defense. Yes.
And I think I also saw Abike Dabiri.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, she was.
Quite a number of, and even the SSC governor on housing.
Yes.
What's her name? So quite a
and
number of.
the former vice president of Nigeria.
Yeah, Professor.
Everybody was
Yemi
so
Swajo
impressed by his speech, his opening speech.
I'm shocked that both of you are just hearing that man now. That man is loaded.
That man
Oh my
is loaded, that man is
goodness.
loaded,
So
that man is
loaded.
loaded.
We had some of the
He delivered his lecture offhand.
like
No
Yes,
script.
that's intelligent.
some of the Taiwan delegates and some of the what's the other country? Some of the other countries. It was
Yeah.
just like, wow, this was
Wow.
amazing. Did
It
you
was,
hear
the,
that?
The lecture was a wow lecture, to be honest.
It was a wow lecture.
That's awesome.
It was.
That's awesome.
It was
I'm just a little scared. Y'all have scared me because this 99. So that means that at the 99th year, if you go
Yeah.
back,
You go back and renew
Yes.
your list.
But there's a tendency or there's a chance
Yes.
that the governor would say, we're not renewing.
No.
So let me tell you. We've seen cases where people own properties. They have their COO, they have their governor's consent, they have their valid titles, and the government can come and say, we need this place for
some
overriding public interest,
yes.
for public
like
purpose.
like
And
roads, like the
for
one that we
roads,
had
and
with
they'll still-
Coastal Road.
they compensate you, and they take over the land.
Yes.
Are you really ever adequately compensated?
Yes. So the
Yes.
honest truth is,
As per
the amount of compensation is a topic of discussion that a lot of people have said that they are not always adequately compensated from people from the research and incidents in the past.
Yeah.
But the compensation they're giving you is on the land.
and you have to know
Yes.
and you have to know that in some situations
Yes.
some people are even reallocated land.
Yes,
the
some are
sense that
taken to
They take you from here and then you are given something within
Another
the same
ground rent.
value or size in another location.
Ground rent.
Okay, that would
Rent.
that would make some sense. A bit of sense.
Well, it depends. I mean, I think there were some people that they reallocated at some point and they went.
Yeah.
They gave them somewhere like Ekpe and all that. Some of them were not so satisfied. So yeah, it depends.
Yeah,
really.
so we've seen what happened at the time they hold Morocco. Morocco was somewhere close to VI before, somewhere close to Ozumba.
Yeah.
So they were, the government needed that area for urbanization,
Push
and
them
they moved
further.
them to a Qatar resettlement scheme.
Yeah.
And even now, I heard that they're still trying to move them away from there. So the government is the ultimate owner of every land. So we
Wow,
are just
true.
tenants. Even if you are the
Wow.
one that bought it, you are just.
Involved in your transaction from
Yes.
your start. That's
So when I had this conversation on the TV station last week, people called me and said that ground rent is paid to federal land. Land use charge is paid in Lagos State, for example.
Yes.
Oh, really?
I wanted to ask
Yes.
you what the difference is.
Land use charge is paid in Lagos State, for example. So I got phone calls and I got reactions like people say that there are some estates in this Lekki that are in Lagos that are federal lands, and the federal government will demand them to pay ground rent, and Lagos State will still demand land use charge from them. So for me, I see that as double taxation,
yes.
and it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have happened in the first place in a country where things work. There cannot be two landlords on a property.
but
you
if it's federal land, but
Yes.
it's in
It's
Lagos
in
State.
Lagos.
It's in Lagos
State
State.
too.
So federal government is still demanding from ground rent. Some parts of Festac are like that. There's a certain estate, Wema Bode Estate, that is also ongoing there. People living there pay ground rent and they still pay land discharge.
And that is the point of bills and having your lawmakers push for things that
Push for things, yes.
in your interest. So if you have that situation, I don't see why constituent people from those constituencies
Yes,
can
please.
come together and say, okay, let's move for this to
Yes.
happen or to
Yes.
change. But some people just hear, oh, this is my predicament,
And they
don't
just
really
pay.
do anything about it, and they
Yes.
just pay.
So it's like paying
Right.
rent to two landlords.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
because
So-
somebody might think that it does make sense if this is
You know-
Lagos State, then
Yes.
land use charge, but then it's a federal. It's just like you have
Yes.
federal
Yes.
roads
Roads, yeah.
on
and
this-
we're,
in
and
the
we're having to
state.
pay to federal government to pass that road, and we're still paying to Lagos government
To
Exactly.
pass
to
the
pass
road.
Because I
crazy.
feel like if you argue it, they might say that both of them have their rights. It's like
Yes.
FIRS and LIRS.
And so there must be a synergy between
Between the two.
federal and
Both of them,
state.
so
They
you're not
cannot
taking
you cannot
advantage of-
tax people in multiple ways
Yes.
for the use of
For
one
the same thing.
for the same thing. So it's conflicting, and
Wouldn't
this
make
is
sense.
for me. I think that is just one of the
unfair.
issues why some Nigerians never even take the government seriously.
What is the percentage
Yes.
you pay for land use charge?
So
in
for land use
this
charge, it's
instance?
usually about 0.394 of percent of your
Value
value
of
of
the
your property.
land.
Yes,
Of the property of the land.
of the
Of
value
the-
of the
of the
property, the property, both the land and the property.
Okay, so this is very interesting because you did mention that for the
But
the
land
federal
use charge, trust me, land use charge in most cases is not only paid for properties that have buildings.
one. Aha.
So whether there's property or not, you pay land use charge because you can decide you might have a land and you're using it for farming, so you must still pay. So it's not only for properties that have properties; it's for both vacant land and the ones that have properties.
Which is another discrepancy,
Yes, please.
isn't it? It
Yes.
seems to be
It
another
is.
discrepancy because if you say ground rent is
Yes.
for the land,
Yes, for
then
the land.
land use charge should be for the land and
Yeah.
not for my property.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree. But let me also say that you know what ground rent is used for. So before now we used to have what is called tenement rates,
Yes.
and we used to have what is called improvement charge. So those monies are actually used to develop the community, the
Yes,
roads,
they're meant to do
infrastructures, and all that.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you so now the tenement rates, improvement charge, the two of them have been embedded into
The
land use charge.
Interesting.
In some states too, I think some other states too. A lot of states take it as land use charge. But this conversation is just to say that even as Nigerians, I know people in these Lagos states who haven't paid land use charge before. And they've had properties for 30 years, 40 years. So we don't take payment of statutory bills seriously. And it's affecting us because these monies are used to develop the states, the road infrastructure. That's why most times when we complain about bad roads, the government is just looking at us. You to do your part. When you do your part, there's
But
some
you-
streets in this Lagos state. When
but
you
you-
go,
but
when
you
you
know-
go there, terrible roads. You cannot even drive your car.
Yes,
But and you're not playing your part as a people.
I
So how do you want
agree.
where do you want the government to get money from?
But Nigerians are also a bit traumatized in
Yes,
the sense
please.
that sometimes we feel like even if funds is made available, it
Yeah.
might not be used for the purpose that it was intended. And some Nigerians feel like, where is the voice that you have to be able
Yeah.
to say, okay, I've paid my land use charge
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Why my roads
Still bad because people don't see
Right?
results for the money's paid.
You understand?
That's why
So
that's why there's apathy.
if we lack confidence in your ability to deliver on what we are paying for,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of people feel like, well,
I agree. But again, we've been having conversations with the current issue of the ground rent issue in Abuja that FCTH, is threatening to seal up 34 embassies. And these embassies have come out. Some of them have come out to say that we're not owing. You have no right to come and seal our properties. And we've also made reference to the Vienna Convention law that protects embassies and high commissions from any sort of tampering, because these are sacred areas. These are untouchable areas that people don't just go near. Even when you see a vehicle belonging to an high commission or an embassy, you dare not even stop them for search on the road.
Sure.
They are
Yes.
immune to search.
yes.
That's
Once you
very
see
true.
their plate numbers, it's always very
You
clear.
let them go.
There's one particular name they put on the plate numbers, high commission. You don't even stop
yes,
them.
you don't.
And the same immunity also covers us in their also violate those rules. Are also going to be
Yes. Or
escalating a serious problem,
There'll
yeah.
sometimes be there'll be consequences.
serious
for
consequences,
such,
and we're not ready for that. I
mm.
can imagine how much in billions we're going to lose if they take out their volume of investment here, or they take out whatever.